When Stephen Curry first entered the NBA, it wasn't like he was unheralded. Being the 7th pick overall means something, but there was at least 2 point guards selected ahead of him, and through his first 3 seasons in the league, he was certainly on his way to being a solid starting point guard. But then, a few things happened. So, let's trace the key moments of his career that led lowercase Steph Curry to become Steph Curry in all caps. For the first couple of years, he played a pretty traditional point guard role with lots of elbow ball screens that got him tons of mid-range shots. I mean, it was crazy how the game was played 10 years ago, right? Just look at all these long twos he was taking, and imagine had they adjusted the position on the floor to screen higher for him. He would get a few three-pointers out of the pick and roll, and some of these might even remind you of the highlights we'd see 5 years later. Poor Bargnani. But it was also amazing to me to see how the defense played him on these ball screens. It was like they couldn't conceive of the ball handler daring to shoot the wide open shot from behind the line, as Curry's man would go underneath the screen and the screener's man would hedge and run away from the ball too. This just shows you how the 3-ball just wasn't a serious threat out of the pick and roll a short 10 years ago. So what exactly happened? Nothing that radical changes overnight, and there were little inklings spread throughout the first 5 years of his career. For instance, the time he was snubbed for the All-Star game in February of 2013 and took it out on the New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden. This is where we started to get our first taste of the audacious off-the-dribble threes he'd become known for later during the Warriors' run. And it was remarkable how the Knicks continued to lose him, giving him enough space to rise up time and time again to the tune of 11 made three-pointers, becoming the only player up till that time who had ever scored more than 50 points while hitting at least 10 threes. Doing this on a national stage helped everyone become acquainted with these types of threes, but I don't think people were sold on Curry just yet. Then came the first round of the Western Conference playoffs that year. Coming in as a 6th seed, the Warriors were not expected to compete with the powerful Denver Nuggets, but instead took 3 straight games with Curry putting up MVP-type numbers to carry the team. What was fascinating was how he morphed from his old-school self, still taking a ton of long 2-point jumpers around the perimeter in games 2 and 3 of the series, before looking to get behind the line a lot more in Game 4, culminating in a 31-point performance that saw him hit 6 threes, with this stretch simply demoralizing the Nuggets and sealing their fate, as they simply could not handle Curry darting around the court at warp speed and sniping from way downtown before the defender could even react. Plus, he set up his teammates time and again, with that familiar hook pass he had mastered around this time, enabling him, with a quick flick of the wrist, to propel the ball on a line right to the open man to get an easy shot. When you put this whole package together, it wasn't surprising that the Warriors won the series. Coming into the next season, which would ultimately be Mark Jackson's last, Steph was poised to build upon his success from a year before, and some interesting things happened. He started creating on the ball a lot more. His pick and roll went way up while his spot up plummeted. The percentage of jumpers off the dribble rose dramatically to over 52%, a number he had never been anywhere close to before. And of course, that means his catch and shoot frequency dropped almost 10 points. This dramatic shift in playing style did increase his assists per game, but his scoring remained very similar to the year before. He seemed to be hunting the 3-point shot more off the dribble in this season, but his 3-point attempts were in the middle of a 3-year run of almost stagnancy. The struggle to fully embrace the long-distance shot was still evident in the amount of long twos he would settle for, rather than get into the lane for a shorter shot or create something from distance and get that extra point. You can see him start to take deeper and deeper threes as he realized he'd get more space and time to release these. Plus, the threat of that shot would serve to pull his man out a lot farther from the basket, where he can then get right by him and set up a teammate for an easy shot. But this wasn't the Steph Curry we'd come to know with a capital S and a capital C. One issue with the offense that Mark Jackson ran was with the post-up. Instead of entering it down low and running screen action to get Steph open, they'd resort to the 80s style stand around the perimeter and wait for a double team and let David Lee go to work. He was okay at scoring down there, but it left so many potential open three-pointers off the table. Not only that, but Curry ended up using over 17% of his possessions in isolation. This is a career high in frequency for him, and while he was ranked very high in efficiency, it didn't make his teammates around him better. His catch and shoot frequency also plummeted almost 10 points from the year before, as he saw himself dominate the ball much more, but it didn't help him find the easy kind of long-distance shots where he could just quick release and bomb away from deep. As it was, he averaged a career high in points and assists, but their offense was very predictable with a distinct lack of energy, as demonstrated by their 12th ranked in offensive rating. And when they lost a heartbreaking first-round 7-game series to the Clippers that had all sorts of drama, from the refs in Game 1 to the Donald Sterling revelations in Games 4 and 5, and then the rumors that Mark Jackson would get fired before Game 6, plus a near fight in the hallway after Game 7, it was time to move in a new direction. But if you think the arrival of Steve Kerr and his new offense was the instant catalyst for Steph Curry going Super Saiyan, think again. Since the Warriors went on to surprise everybody and win a title in Kerr's first year, the narrative had taken hold that this was the moment Curry was unlocked. By the way, I was one of the only people to predict their rise to title contender before the season. Check out the video here. And while there was an uptick in certain key stats for Steph, the 2014-15 season was more similar to his previous years than the ones in the future. What did change significantly is the amount of pick and rolls he ran. That frequency shrank 8 points, unheard of for a quote-unquote point guard in the NBA. But as important, his isolation went down dramatically, as did his jump shots off the dribble. Not surprisingly, we saw a big jump in catch and shoot shots, plus shots coming off screens. The seeds were laid for what was to come in this season, but they were still just feeling their way around the offense, adjusting to new roles and learning on the fly. One thing to notice is how they'd get Steph immediately off the ball first, setting screens on the weak side and cutting, before then receiving the ball and getting the ball screened. This served to open up everything for not just him, but his teammates, as now there was weak side action to occupy the defense, plus the initial movement served to get the defenders out of position on the pick and roll immediately, allowing Steph the space and time to do his magic off the dribble. The offense operated a lot quicker as well, not necessarily in how fast the shot would go up, but the pace they used to initiate the action and the speed with which the individual players moved through the half court to get open and open up opportunities. Kerr also had his big men set ball screens higher and higher, giving Steph so much more room than ever before to utilize the threat of his shot to get him right to the rim for layups. The biggest key in the road to capital S, capital C has got to be all the catch and shoot shots he got moving off ball and coming off screens. Suddenly, he had room to sprint 35 feet across the floor off of multiple screens to get open for shots like this in the corner. This was also when Draymond Green became a starter, enabling him to grab rebounds and push the ball up the floor, allowing Steph to get up the court early and then find screeners for him to get up even more open shots. But this also gave rise to a chorus of complainers that they were setting illegal screens all over the place. Certainly, guys like Bogut were pushing the envelope for what was legal, but so was everybody in the NBA. It just so happened the Warriors set more screens than anybody else, so by sheer volume, it seemed like the Warriors were getting away with something, but the bottom line, Curry still had to hit these shots, and to hit them, he did. So, the real seeds that were planted for the Curry experience were rooted in him being off the ball and utilizing the offense and other playmakers finding him. Less shots off the dribble, more player movement and spacing was the key, but we still hadn't gotten to the main event. Even though this team won the whole thing in 6 games against a depleted Cavaliers team, it took the next year for us to finally get the Super Saiyan version of Steph Curry. In what should probably be considered the greatest offensive season of all time, Curry's 2015-16 season saw him shatter every conceivable notion we had of what a lead guard could do on the basketball court. He reduced his pick and roll frequency for the second straight year, but increased his off-screen shots from 8.9% of the time to 14.2% as they fully unleashed the best of both worlds. Now, Steph could give the ball up early and come off multiple off-ball screens to free him up for open looks from behind the arc, but he also started shooting from even farther away. He increased his off-the-dribble shots by almost 2 per game, but also took almost 2 more shots per game from 25 to 29 feet than the previous year, enthralling us with shooting displays that were both breathtaking from a fan standpoint, but completely devastating to the defense since they now had to stretch all the way to the half-court line. It was no surprise that a defense pulled out that far from the hoop would allow Curry his choice of whatever shot he wanted from either him or a teammate, leading to a league-leading offensive rating and a rare 50-40-90 shooting season from a player who was taking over 11 three-point attempts per game. Combine that with an elite ability to finish at the rim by avoiding the help and putting the ball where the defender wasn't, and this guy had become patently unfair to the rest of the league. There were so many factors that led to Steph Curry becoming almost superhuman, so it's impossible to credit just one thing. Steve Kerr's offense and his stress on ball movement and player movement was huge, but so was the audacity of Steph's individual skills that allowed him to routinely embarrass the best defenders in the league on any given night. And there might not have been a shot that more perfectly encapsulated what he meant for the offense and the team's fortunes than this game winner in Oklahoma City in February of that season. With the floor spaced, Curry bringing it up on the dribble, and straight pulling from 40 feet away to bury this shot. In an instant, the world was put on notice, and that, sports fans, is how Steph Curry became Steph Curry. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to B-Ball Breakdown so you can get alerted right away when we drop a new video. This season will be filled with incredible content, so don't miss it. You in?